My name's Sav, and this is Run the Tapes. Today we're going to be analysing how England managed to get outside the Irish defensive wall and just take it apart. They made Ireland afraid that their whole system was broken, and this caused chaos in the wider channels. The hesitation and doubt that crept in bled into the Irish back three and helped every single England try. It started at minute 1 with Johnny May, and for me culminated in Henry Slade's first try. We see all game Ireland defend with a flat green wall from the 15 metre channel to the other 15 metre channel. This means that England can flood the 5 metre channel with attacking threat and it goes largely unmarked. We can see in this clip on the far side, Johnny May is completely out on that left touchline, but the closest Irish defender is only sat on his own 15 metre line. The idea behind this defensive choice is to push out from the centre, trusting your speed to cut the angle and rush the line. This attempts to force the opposition to make speculative kicks and passes that feed your own danger men if they go wrong. There's a sweeper out the back who would undoubtedly cover May should he get the ball from a crossfield kick or a miss pass. This sweeping player makes the harder defensive decisions that will ultimately impact the whole team. If they rush up as Keith Earls does for May's first try, they can fall victim to a simple miss pass. Here is May's first try, and as the commentators say, it looks like a simple training ground finish, but it's only made possible by Ireland's own system. We can see from this angle that Ireland are still defending slightly narrow and with every intention of pushing England out and wide. Conor Murray sat slightly on his heels whilst the rest of his team are flying up in a pretty sharp blitz. Keith Earls makes the choice to try and shut the door on this England attack, and Owen Farrell decides to bypass his rush with a nice miss pass. On the reverse angle, it becomes even more obvious. Earls is the widest defender in the green wall, and it's almost as if he refuses to acknowledge that the 5 metre channel exists. Never mind the fact there are 2 English players raring to go because he's more concerned with shutting the door on this attack. On the face of it, this is a very simple misread, but it exposed a weakness that England had obviously been looking at throughout the last few months, if not years. I have some proof of this being a tactical decision that I will get to in a moment. This initial try proved the point that English coaches had probably been making for a while, and this gave England complete confidence in their attacking system. On the flip side, Ireland had just had their system exposed, and this puts no small number of jitters into a big game performance. We saw this still at the beginning of the video, and I think this try highlights the worry that the first try put on the Irish back three. Even if you take out the late hits and the high ball threats that England were pouring onto them, this try was fed by the first one. Defensively in their system, they should have stayed mentally strong, but because of the first misread, they began to have doubts. In this play, 2 simple out the back moves and seeing Conor Murray once again on his heels scares Stockdale to rush up when he doesn't need to. Peter O'Mahony might not be Tom Croft, but he's never letting Daly get round him here, and although Murray is on his heels, Noel is more Thor than the Flash and shouldn't pose much of a threat to him on the outside. The short run run by Slade for me was more of a threat to the line than the out the back ball, and by Stockdale not trusting Murray and to a lesser extent Peter O'Mahony, he's left the backfield wide open. Now, Stockdale being Stockdale, he's able to race back and cover the perfectly weighted kick. On most occasions he's forced back over his own line and the 5 metre attacking scrum might be where the try would be scored. However, we get a fast forwarded version of events when he unfortunately coughs it up in the tackle and Daly dots down. This all comes from a defensive system that relies on the back three to make complicated decisions, and when these players are starting to doubt their teammates' defensive abilities, mistakes start to creep in. Now we move on to the main event. Slade's try began here in 2016 against New Zealand. The try you've just seen shows off a rugby freak of nature running through a pretty good defensive system. You can see Ireland are set up with Conor Murray looking to tackle the fly half and 2 players form a defensive line beside him. The 13 is then quite narrow but further back, with the winger a lot further back from him. Everyone is still very narrow in this curved defensive line that aims to start tight and work wide. Barrett, being a freak of nature, manages to hit the ball flat and just burn Murray on the outside. Now we move on to an NFL-esque set play that I can only imagine had the England coaches poring over film trying to work out a true defensive weakness in the Irish structure. This would be a weakness that doesn't rely on a Keith Earls misread or a Jacob Stockdale fumble or even a Conor Murray lack of gas. This weakness had to be one that even when the system worked perfectly, it would still tear it apart. This was their solution. A flat missed pass to Henry Slade from Youngs completely bypasses the Irish drift off 9, forcing the outside defender to make an immediate choice. Slade barely breaks stride before releasing another perfect flat pass to possibly the fastest man on the pitch, Johnny May, and Irish alarm bells start ringing. They've entered the space I marked in yellow within seconds, and the defensive fullback has to rush up. In what feels clearly a set play, May doesn't check or look to pass. He instead kicks through to a midfield combo that were clearly expecting it. Slade scored, and from this point on, the game was no one's but England's.
That's just a training ground running.
Thanks for listening. This has been Sav, and if you want more Run the Tapes, please like, comment and subscribe.